Sunicum leads the council in prayer. For those who do not wish to participate, please use this time for some reflection, or you may leave the room. Also, can I remind colleagues to make sure that their mobile phones are switched off.
Heavenly Father, we come before you. We just quiet our hearts. Lord, we ask that in everything that is discussed this afternoon, that you will be here right in the midst. That, Lord, as Tracy, as Madam Mayor, counsels this meeting, Lord, I pray that you will give her wisdom, Father, in all her duties that she has to undertake. Father, I pray that you will keep her safe. That, Lord, that she will be a blessing to this city. Father, for every councillor that is here, Lord, I thank you for the fact that they're stood and want to stand and represent the people of this city. Father, no matter what religion or creed or colour, Father, I pray that, Lord, you will bless them, that they will see the fruits of their labour, and that, Lord, that this city will thrive, that this city will be known as the Lord is there. That, Lord, every decision that is made will be decisions full of godly wisdom. And that, Lord, we especially remember our Muslim friends today as they celebrate. Father, I pray, Lord, as this celebration of sacrifice, that, Lord, so many people have given time to sacrifice, Father, to their community. And Father, I pray for our Muslim friends that they, Lord, will just enjoy the celebrations. Thank you for the sacrifice that you gave as you sent your Son Jesus. Father, I pray that, Lord, we will have open ears to listen to you this afternoon. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please be seated. Just make note to council that those in jackets, if they wish to remove them for their use, they may do so. And I also make note, as the Mayor, I am inviting Councillor Akbar a short moment to speak as a practicing Muslim on the importance of Eid in a multicultural district.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I'd like to say a few words to mark the occasion of the celebration of Eid al-Adha. I attend today dressed in traditional clothing, as I am also celebrating as a practicing Muslim. Eid al-Adha is an occasion which can be translated to mean a celebration of sacrifice. This marks the end of the holy pilgrimage in Islam, which is known as Hajj, and it further notes the sacrifices that Muslims make in this holy month. It is perhaps the most holy day in the Islamic calendar. Just to mark what residents and myself will do on a general day in Eid, we generally go to our local mosques and read the Eid prayers, followed by celebration and time with our families where we enjoy meals, exchange gifts with each other, and also give charity to the needy, as well as following in the other acts of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Over the last 18 months, we've had 3 Eid celebrations where we've been subject to conditions due to COVID-19, and I am pleased to say that the Muslim community has abided by the regulations. The mosques have remained closed over the last 15 or so months, and I would like to mark and remember those people who spent these occasions in isolation, nonetheless stood strong. However, now that the restrictions have been relaxed, Eid can be celebrated in full swing, and people are of course enjoying it. So on behalf of myself, and I'm sure I speak for all members of the council today, I'd like to wish all the residents of Wakefield a very happy Eid and an Eid Mubarak. Thank you, Mark, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councillor. Agenda item 2 is the summons to receive disclosures by members of interest in matters under consideration. Will members declaring an interest please identify themselves and their particular conflict of interest clearly and complete the usual yellow form before the end of the meeting. Firstly, colleagues, Councillor. Sorry? Can you fill out the appropriate form, please? Are there any other declarations of interest? Councillor? Anybody else wishing to declare an interest? Are there any significant other interests to be declared? Thank you. Please fill out the appropriate forms at the end of the meeting. Agenda item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 23rd of June 2021. Are these minutes moved? Are these minutes seconded?
Second minutes, Madam Mayor.
All in favour? That is carried. Agenda item 4 is to receive apologies for absence. Before taking these apologies, it is possible that I may have to leave the council before its conclusion in order to attend an event at the High Sheriff's residence. If that is the case, the deputy will take over and resume the chair for the remainder of the meeting. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Binns, Councillor Blizzard, Ferguson, Garber, Glover, Manifold, Massey, Picking, Tennant and Williams. I have also been informed that Councillor Shaw and Malkin and Spade may need to leave the meeting early. Are there any further apologies? Councillor Stanley. Councillor Taylor. Councillor. We didn't, Councillor Tully, but we will do. Councillor Womersley. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 5 is to deal with such announcements as I may decide to lay before Council. This month I have had the personal privilege to wear my Yorkshire Ambulance Service uniform as we celebrated the NHS's birthday. I have travelled around the district thanking our local heroes and saying a mayoral thank you to them for their tireless work during the pandemic. I was also welcomed the new business to the city centre. I will be hosting a charity evening of live music on Thursday the 29th of July at the Black Horse Public House, and tickets are available and information through the office. I am also holding a charity absale which will take place on the 18th of September. We already have 2 councillors signed up. If anybody would like to add their names to the list, please do that through the Mayor's office. Finally, colleagues, I do hope that you can join me for the Mayor's Civic Parade on the 9th of October. Thank you, colleagues, and that concludes my announcements. As no deputations have been received for today's meeting, we will now move to agenda item 7, which is the Leader's Report. Once the Leader has presented her report, she will answer any questions from members on the matters raised in her report. A maximum of 30 minutes will be allowed, followed by 30 minutes of questions and answers. Councillor Jeffrey.
Can I also wish to all our Muslim colleagues Happy Eid Mubarak, and I thought you spoke very well. It was good to hear. I haven't got a lot of items today. The hot weather, we're all suffering from the hot weather, but there has been some tragedies across the district with people jumping into the water to try and cool off. And again, I would urge the public to take real care about what they're doing. I know it's very tempting to jump in rivers and canals, etc. But people are losing their lives, and it is a very sad time for the families, and our hearts go out to them. 2 months ago at Council, we had an issue with the Sandal Magna roof issue, and I did say that we would have a public inquiry into this. This is an historic problem that goes back to 2005, but this Labour group is very transparent in what we do, and so we've called for an inquiry, and the results are here. You've all had copies of the inquiry, of the results of the inquiry, and I know that the Conservative group have had a briefing on this. My colleague, Cabinet Member Margaret Isherwood, will be moving the report and answering any questions on it. The other thing which is more heartening is we put our bid in on Monday for the City of Culture. It's really raised expectations across the district. People are coming to us from their communities, all wanting to take part in this. And whatever the outcome, and I know Michael Graham and myself think we're going to win, whatever the outcome, it's really raised people's thoughts at the moment. We've had 18 months of a terrible time, and the fact that we've got something to offer in this district, and it isn't just in Wakefield City, it's all across the district, and community groups feel that they can take part in it as well. So I think it's a real good factor for the district. So we'll see what happens. We should know in October whether we've been shortlisted or not. And then the other good news last week was that Featherstone Rovers won the 1895, is it 1895? Shows I'm not a Featherstone fan totally, Maureen, wherever you are. But yes, they won, and it was a marvellous day for Featherstone, and we should be holding a civic reception for them at the end of August. Castleford were not so lucky, and they didn't win, and Graham's laughing about that now, he can't keep his face straight. But Castleford, no surprise, my colleague has sure been to see them, and they don't want a civic reception, obviously, but we will be marking the fact that they actually went to Wembley and put up a fantastic performance against Saints. So we shall be marking that with some memento, and Les and I are working on that now. So I think, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry I've got my back to you. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey, for your report. Are there any questions on the report? Councillor Jeffrey, no questions, please. No. We shall now move on to agenda item 8, which is to receive written cabinet member reports in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 11.1. Cabinet members have up to 5 minutes to present their reports and a further 15 minutes allocated to enable each cabinet member to respond to any questions or brief comments on issues raised within their reports. Sorry, Councillor Stansby, did you indicate that you wanted to speak?
Madam Mayor, the rules are that there can be a question or comment on any matter that Councillor Jeffrey has raised. That should have happened. It's not a response as such, but...
Councillor Stansby, you can raise a comment at this time. You need to indicate though in future if you want me to acknowledge that you want to make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, appreciate that. The reason I wanted to stand up was because normally Councillor Ahmed would make a comment about the fact that it's Eid, and he'd asked if I would pass on best wishes from the Conservative group to everybody in Wakefield, so I felt it was quite important to do that in his absence. I'll mention about, I'll speak on Sandal Magna later on, but I just felt that I needed to speak about the really sad drowning incidents that we've had in the district recently. And it is very sad, and we do have a couple more days of hot weather. And I was wondering if we could possibly, up the warnings maybe, and maybe have further patrols around water areas in the district, if that's possible. It's very sad. And just to say, that we're fully supportive of the bid for the City of Culture. And my ward colleagues from Ossett will be looking forward to the Sea Life Centre in Ossett, that hopefully we can have a City of Culture maybe. With a swimming pool.
Councillor Jeffrey, would you like to reply to any comments or questions?
I do think it's important
that we send some notices out again, and we'll ask the appropriate officers to do that. I think we should. It is a serious issue. And on the Sea Life Centre, watch this space, Tony.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Moving back again to agenda item 8. We're moving to Councillor Hemingway's Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Climate Change and Environment. Councillor Hemingway, you've got 5 minutes to present your report, and there will be 15 minutes allocated for questions and comments within that report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And when we talked about biodiversity, I didn't quite realise we meant marine life as well as habitats within the Wakefield district. Could I just start my report by echoing what Denise and other colleagues have said and wishing Amazon communities a happy Eid. It's a very joyous occasion for them to be celebrating and to be able to celebrate after all these restrictions, as Councillor Akbar has said. So I extend my good wishes as well to the Muslim community on this very holy day. The only thing really I'd like to add to my written report, Madam Mayor, is regarding the mourner numbers given on agenda page 10. Following the government easing the guidance and restrictions on Monday, those figures as published are now out of date, so we've moved back to 100 mourners at Pontefract Crematoria to be seated and 87 seated mourners at Wakefield Crematoria. And there are now also no restrictions on standing mourners outside crematoria. So we're starting to get back to normal when it comes to bereavement services. But I think it's still really important that people adhere to wearing masks where possible and just be careful. So that's the only addition I've got to my written report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hemingway. Are there any questions or brief comments in Councillor Hemingway's report? Councillor Gordon.
So in the report you talk about the declarations of biodiversity and the climate change emergency, the first of which happened over 2 years ago now. It talks in there about how the council will adapt and change the way in which it manages and works with its green spaces in the future as such, as a result of that. But yet, after those declarations, after that first declaration, the council still has put forward local area master plans in areas like Nottingham and Line, which would de-zone the green belt and pave over spaces which are home to the new bats and other animals too. So it still sort of, to me, seems a little bit like the council is more talk, less action when it comes to actually having a coherent response to both the climate change and the biodiversity crisis. So if you've got anything on that, that'd be great, and see how do you juggle those two things, whether they're council is like they're co-opposites in some respects. The other part is, you mentioned there about tree planting initiatives as well. We heard at the Scrutiny Committee for Climate Change on Monday that the council originally had planned over 2 years to plant 100 hectares of trees. Again, it seems the council once again is over-promising and under-delivering. The target was then revised down to 50 hectares, and council officers really fully say that that looked just as unachievable as the original plan. So, given that the council and itself keep talking about how this is the biggest issue, about how important it is, when will we actually meet the own targets that we're setting for ourselves in the district?
Councillor Hemingway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, as much as I might like to, Councillor Gordon, we don't control the national applying policy frameworks within the Wakefield district. Now, we can set our own policy on local issues. We've set our own biodiversity net gain policy to try and ensure that nature is being supported by planning development. But there will always be a balance, while the national legislation frameworks as they are, between the delivery of housing and the protection of nature and the environment. And perhaps that balance isn't right at the moment, but we are doing what we can to improve it. On the White Rose Forest, I don't really agree with what you're saying. I think in terms of the council's planting programme, we literally agreed at Cabinet yesterday to plant 600,000 more trees. 240 hectares of land have already been identified for planting in the coming season. So I'm not really sure where you're coming from with that point, and it's not accurate for the information that I have from all the Cabinet decision that we took yesterday. So I'm afraid I don't think we've got that one right. In terms of our goals, we're still well on course to deliver net zero by 2030 as an organisation. We are developing a wider plan for the entire district, and you're quite entitled as an elected member to feed into that and contribute any ideas you may have.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Henry, just got two questions today. So what plan does the council have to invest in the local parks for improvement? So will this mainly be for upkeep after the pandemic, or will there be further improvement and investment plan to ensure that they thrive and continue to be used by the residents for their leisure purpose? Thank you. That's the first question. Second one about the project Verdant mentioned that a combination of green area and blue industry zones has been actually clearly optimized by the council plan. But however, with a growing population in our district, we understand there is a balance to be hit between the affordable housing and green space. So how the council can be assuring that the green space will be preserved and not be destroyed by the new affordable housing? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I can confirm that the council is investing heavily in parks. We've invested £2.5 million. We've set up the new park steering group, which is cross-party, and there are Conservative members involved in that and aware of what we're doing. But it's not just going to be a one-off improvement programme, it's also supported by £500,000 of revenue. So once we've delivered these improvements to parks, we are going to continue to support that so that we don't decline in future. It's not been helped over the years by the significant austerity that the council has faced. We've had to make difficult decisions, but we are doing what we can to reverse that now and make some real improvements. In terms of the question regarding the growing population, it's always going to be a balance between housing and environment. I think one issue that we've got is that the private sector housing market doesn't necessarily deliver the right kind of houses that we need. We've seen large 4 or 5 bedroom family homes spring up in a lot of places, and actually what we need is small affordable family homes, bungalows for people who might have mobility issues. And if we were delivering the right kind of housing, I think we could potentially accommodate that with the green agenda. So, as I said earlier to Councillor Gordon's question too, we are looking at biodiversity net gain, we are looking at encouraging developers to try and preserve the local green environment when we do build. So we are aware of those issues and we are trying our best to accommodate.
Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question, Jack. Regarding No Mow May and similar verge initiatives, just if in future, could we have some signage to let our residents know? It's just, we're sort of split between 50-50, you know, some people want nicely cut grass verges, you know, and pristine, and the others realise that, you know, there is an advantage to bee life, etc. But they think it's because the council are being lazy rather than having an actual plan. So if we could have signs to say, this is our plan, the reason they haven't been cut is for this reason, I think it would make people a little bit happy. Thank you.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think we do need to look at more education around this. When we're looking at some of the summer flowering meadows and parks, there will be education boards around that to explain to people what we're doing and why. It's probably not always going to be possible to have a sign up on every verge across the district, but I think, yeah, I accept that we do need to do more education, but it's going to have to be a balance at some point. We can either have everything looking pretty and neat road, or we can have stuff that benefits nature and pollinators. So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Madam. Just like to place on record and thanks to Sinead who came down to with a visit this morning for myself, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Holman, and told us about the 3,000 to 4,000 trees that are planted in the Oxford area over 2 sites. So that's placed on record, my thanks to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Councillor Farmer, and I'll make sure that's passed on to Sinead and the White West Forest team. We're doing a fantastic job at the moment, so I'll make sure she gets that feedback.
Any further questions, Councillor Henry? No? Thank you, Councillor Henry. Can I just ask council members, if anybody wants to raise a question, can you please stand and then I can identify you easier rather than just putting your hand up. Thank you. Moving on to the next report, which is the portfolio holder for children and young people. Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and may I also wish happy to all our Muslim friends out in our communities. It is a very special time for you all. In presenting the report, Madam Mayor, I want to particularly highlight the award-winning safeguarding campaign. I must congratulate everybody involved with this. As you can see at the bottom, it was also adopted regionally by the West Yorkshire Safeguarding Group and submitted by the DFE to the Cabinet Office as an exemplar of best practice of multi-agency working. And I think in Children's Services we are very proud of the fact that we work so well with our partners now in protecting our children and young people. A number of reports identify this as you read through the council report. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'm going to take questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Councillor Sherwood? Any comments? Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Harvey, sorry, it's very difficult to see if you don't stand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to highlight the report itself. Just wondering, yes, we are going to discuss it in length later on, I understand. But just wonder whether the capital investment project for the coming year for other local maintained schools, will that be affected because of the problem at Sandal Magna?
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. No, it won't actually. There was a Cabinet report went to Cabinet a few weeks ago outlining the current maintenance programme. It's currently funded at £2.8 million a year. That covers all 58 local authority schools. The current maintenance programme is laid out over a number of years. It was previously laid out over 16 years. We have managed to reduce that down to 12 because by using a surplus basic needs funding. But if you look at the Cabinet report that came out a few weeks ago, it will give you full details of how the maintenance programme is progressing.
Councillor Stanley.
Thank you. Just a quick question about launch of Liquid Logic.
Oh yes.
I wondered if all the data from the old system had been transferred over across, and if it was actually fully operational from 2nd of June.
Round the corner here. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's being integrated now, and it's working well. I have seen it working, and it's far better system than we had before, and it's going to be far more beneficial to the children's services than the previous system.
Quick follow-up question. Could you report back to us the difference? Maybe give us about 3 to 6 months. Could you report back the difference?
To do that. It will be very interesting to get reports back from social workers to see how they find it and how it has affected their job. So I'm happy to fetch that back to council. Maybe just let it get better, and then I'll fetch a report to council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Akbar.
I just had a question in regards to St Giles Trust.
Right.
In my profession, I work with many young people who have been subjected to criminal offences, etc., and taken through the criminal offence system, etc. I think this is long overdue. Young children having something to work towards to deter them. However, can I ask, how will this sort of differ from the youth offending team that's already in place?
It should work alongside the youth offending team because, as you'll probably know, we have an excellent youth offending team, and the work that they're doing, it will have to work alongside that. We are developing lots of ways to help young people out there to find jobs. One of the aspects of protection to be the support to young people, vulnerable people that really do need that help. And hopefully we can set on the right path rather than just leaving the abandoned.
Thank you. I raised that question because I've seen over the years firsthand how these children have gone through these things.
community incomes and work with the children's centres and everything that was going ahead. It's all targeted at people who need additional help.
If there are no further questions, thank you, Councillor Ishmael. Can I just remind everyone once again, if you need to ask a question, you need to stand up, please, so that I can see you, otherwise you will get missed. Next is the portfolio of communities, poverty and health. Councillor Maureen Cummings.
Thank you. Just to inform everybody, I am still up. Okay, not too much to add to the report. I just want to make a correction to the report, and I'm not the portfolio holder anymore for environment, and it still says that, so I apologise for that. And I too would like to have a happy Eid Mubarak to the Muslim community of our district. Just a couple of things, as I say, I want to encourage people to visit the Happy Holiday website. The links in the report. There's lots happening across the district, and there's lots happening in your wards that you can find those families might be living below the poverty line. There will be food as well involved in that. I want to add my congratulations to Featherstone. It was an absolutely super match, and my commiserations to Castleford. Of course, I'm going to mention Wakefield Trinity as well. They haven't done anything, but congratulations anyway. And the final thing, if I can just address a question that Nick asked earlier about the patrolling of the large water courses. We have actually this week assigned our COVID marshals to go to the larger water courses to actually patrol around them. It is sad what's happened over the weekend, but we are the COVID marshals are not as much required now because we've had a Freedom Day, so we will deploy them back to the larger water sources. I think with that, I'd like to move my report, but I would like to say be safe, protect others, and continue to wear a mask.
Any questions or comments on Councillor Maureen Cummings' reports? Councillor Atman.
Just a comment rather than a question, which we'll consider later on. In terms of enforcement for rough sleeping and bedding, I am aware that the council did a fantastic job in regards to enforcement in the city centre. However, unfortunately, this is pushing these people into my ward, especially College Grove and the lower end of East Moulton, the sort of Warren area, etc. So, Councillor Cummings, I would urge you to have a look into that, please.
Yeah, thank you for that. We do whatever enforcement we do, I can't see whatever enforcement we do, we will always push those that are committing the offence further and further out. We do tend to follow it, so yes, we are aware.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Councillor Stanton, you need to stand up if you've got a question, otherwise you won't be able to see you. Councillor Cummings, Councillor Stanton has a question.
I've got a slip disc, it's really difficult standing up and down, it's not the most comfortable of things. Regarding the increase in alcohol and drug addictions during lockdowns, you touched briefly on the impact of COVID-19, so I'll get away with it there. We've noticed rental cases that there has been a big increase. I mean, we covered the whole of Wakefield district. There has been a big increase in drug and alcohol use and mental health issues. Are you putting anything in place to support these volunteer groups? Because we're finding it quite a struggle to cope.
You're absolutely right. I mean, mental health particularly has declined rapidly over the last 14 to 16 months. And the more we put in place, the more services are required. I can say that people requiring mental health services, we have managed to get that down from a staggering 54 weeks to 16 weeks. It's still not ideal, and I do know that, and I'm more than happy to discuss what we can do with voluntary groups if you'd like to have a chat with me.
Thank you, Councillor Linsky. Moving on to the portfolio, Councillor Brown, would you like to please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to first of all wish Eid Mubarak as well to everyone in the district and in the country, and also extend my condolences to those families in our district and across the country who've lost loved ones. I just can't imagine what we're going through. It makes me feel sick here. He thought it was really rude. Just to follow from what the leader said before about the city of culture, we are now putting an expression of interest, and we shall find out in September whether or not we've been shortlisted. I am very, very optimistic. I think that the district, and this is what's so special about this year, the whole district is allowed to apply, it's not just the city, and I'm very optimistic about our chances. So nothing more to say on that, but let's wait and see what happens in September, and fingers crossed for us all. I would like to just highlight in my report the Festival of the Earth. I know there's absolutely huge excitement building about some of our exhibitions that are coming, particularly the Gaia Earth installation in Wakefield Cathedral. I've already seen literally hundreds and hundreds of people saying that they're going to be coming to this, so it's going to attract huge audiences. And we are very much looking forward to welcoming Luke Durant's creation. But also just to highlight that there is an important message behind this festival. It is about what we can do, what small changes we can make to change the planet and to help with what's going on. And there are already some fantastic exhibitions out there. We've got the World of Good in Wakefield 1. We've got dandelions and double yellows in the cathedral right now. Across 5 different libraries in the district, we've got Tony Wade's The Butterfly Effect. There's just so many very colourful, bright creations, fantastic things to go and see. So I would ask everyone to help promote that and get as many visitors to these great creations as possible. And just a final thank you, myself and Councillor Hepworth travelled far and wide across the district to every corner, visiting our libraries. And I've never been to every library in the district before, and I can say I was absolutely blown away by the way that the staff there do, the sheer amount of activities and programmes, and I think that the footfall in each of those libraries is testament to just how many great things are going on. A highlight for us was the Pontefract cinema in the library, which has just been created. We turned an absolutely small, dingy room that was used for board meetings into a really, padded out cinema with a popcorn stand. It really feels like a high quality cinema done on a very small grant. So absolutely fantastic creation there. Already school kids are coming and enjoying that facility. So hats off to those staff down there. And with that, Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any questions or comments on Councillor Brown's report? Thank you, Councillor Brown. Next report is the portfolio for regeneration, economic growth and property. Councillor Byford, please introduce your report, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to present the report of the regeneration, economic growth and property portfolio for the Council. It's a great pleasure that I can bestow the relevant positive report supporting our residents, our businesses, our town centres, and showing investment opportunities across the whole district with more to follow. This portfolio is wide. It supports many people, it supports many businesses, and it provides facilities for many council functions and our partners. The team have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic, supporting our residents, working with our businesses, creating safe working spaces for our staff, and for those that support the district. For example, the COVID testing sites across the district, and the more important, to complement the vital business cases to support the town's vulnerable and developing groups. I thank them all for that. But I would like to bring to Council's full attention the following. the work done with our Kickstart, our Step Up and our employment teams, as they have engaged with businesses and those in need of help across the whole district, making a true and real difference. I would like to thank the Money Smart teams, the Northern Green Space, and the Big Boiler teams for their hard work. With over 50 families now having a new boiler installed, with at least another 60 applications being processed, providing them with heating that's sustainable and will save them money with energy costs. And I'd also like to thank the investment and regeneration teams for progressing the work across the whole district, to highlight a few places, Contract, Nottingham, St Ensel, St Kirby and Norfolk, and across Wakefield of individual schemes, with more to follow in more towns for the rest of this year. And following on from the hard work of officers and partners, we heard last week from the Ministry of Housing, Community and Rural Government that we have now secured the next stage of the funding for the Towns Fund, which will see £48.8 million invested. This now means that we can start to make a real positive change and see real investment across the whole district. So finally, I would like to thank officers across the whole council for their support in helping these massive regeneration projects. Without their help, these would not be possible. Without Madam Mayor, I would like to move my report.
Thank you. Any questions to Councillor Byford? Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much. So, Councillor Byford, with great joy, I have noted that you mentioned about the employment figures of Canberra and Transport, and also some program for South Africa, London, or UK as well, when they will come back. But colleagues from both sides of the chapter, I will not forget we are standing in the ex-market hall of Wakefield. So Wakefield traders, Wakefield shoppers coming from London. So we have any kind of hope for Wakefield so that we can all come back to the market. I know that Council has discussed previously about the value of permanent housing for the market trade with Wakefield, but that has not come to conclusion. So I wonder if it is a new argument of the Council again that will show in front of us. Other question I want to know is under the skills and employment section. Specifically, you mentioned about a lady that has achieved a lot. So, congratulations to her, of course. But I do believe that the scope should be much larger than this one single example. So, I just wondering, for example, shall we actually be able to provide some figures of the employment figures of the district, and also the skills update of what we have shown and what we are actually need in the labour force for the district. So, that's something I think we should keep our eyes on, because it is important after the pandemic recovery. So the last one is regarding to the section of the employment section in page 28. So you mentioned about the fallback, and I just want to refer to, and please, if you can, please let the council and president know the insight into this report about the education money being fallback with the government's level of change. Thank you, Councillor.
Amazing, the first point, the fact that you're involved in so many of the things that are heavily generating over the time. From your involvement in the business, your relationship with the trades, I really don't understand that. But again, if you read the report, there is an amazing amount of work going on in transit, particularly across the city centre. And you also are fully aware that the main purpose of the regeneration of Wakefield City Centre is to bring residents back into the middle of the city centre, to encourage them to use the shops and to stay here. So again, I'm a little bit shocked at that. But secondly, as it was mentioned, I believe, if not at the last meeting, the last council meeting, certainly the meeting before, Wakefield Council did not pay for this building. We have to remember that. This building was not paid for by Wakefield Council. In relation to the clawback, I will provide you some information on that in the written report with great pleasure. And to be fair, I can't remember the second question was.
The second question is about the scope of the report on skills and employment. I understand we have a wonderful example of a lady's achievement in congratulating her. However, I think the district should have a better report with a better scope about what exactly we are at this employment figure and also the skills itself as well. Thank you.
Yes,
clarification, can you tell me what the rate of regeneration is for I apologise for this. Can you tell me what's each normal in that area? Doesn't seem to be a development.
Thank you, Councillor Farmer. It's in my report, I did say the more to follow with more times later in the year. And I do believe, while I was self-isolating last month, you will be on the council committee with the leaders to set up that process of what we will be doing in the town, starting with offsets and then working through to my own board, all with self-offset and then to the rest of the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moffat. Next is the portfolio of Solomon Highway. Councillor Morley, can you please introduce your report to council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I too wish everybody have very happy memories of teaming in the 90s and my family providing our equipment at each operations in the area with these magical events, so thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, as always, the Island section are extremely busy this time of the year, lots of resurfacing going around the roads of the district, footpaths, traffic regulation orders, and we're cracking on with that. Madam Mayor, I'd like to draw council's attention to agenda page 54, the amount of work going on with schools and road safety. It's tremendous work in the amount of children we engage with in schools. It's testament to the team. I'm also quite excited that we're now able to do our speed surveys and engage with local members with the speed book, get out there work with the police, so that's an exciting opportunity that we have as well. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'm quite happy to move my report and take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Morley. Any questions or comments, Councillor Morley's report? Thank you, Councillor Morley. The final report is as for the portfolio of local resources. Councillor Collins, can you please introduce your report to council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to highlight a couple of things that are in my written report. So I'd just like to offer congratulations to members of the committee who have won some of the most prestigious awards for some of the campaigns that they've done recently. So the Safeguarding Everyone's Business Award in the integrated care category, and also an award for the campaign which did COVID restrictions around Halloween for young people. So they have won those awards, and the winning campaigns for the regions we're going to be judged in the Grand Prix, which will be announced in October, so we should look at that. And finally, I'd just like to offer a big thank you to our registrars team. At the moment, they are under significant pressure managing the COVID-19 pandemic impact on weddings and the increasing of just marriage appointments due to the increase of the restrictions over the last 16 months. Since the legislative changes that were made, there's been a poor performance and poor service on the regional online management system, which has mean that they're all having to go back and do things manually, and they are working their absolute best to committed to managing customer expectations and providing excellent service in what is a really difficult time for them. So I just urge everybody to be patient and offer what them. So they're doing an enormous amount of work that works much better.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Are there any questions or comments from Councillor Collins' report? Councillor Gordon.
I was just wondering, under the COVID support grants that's in the report, I know with the grants which were put out businesses last year, we had kind of got money back to central government as being issued. Just in terms of the money back together to keep your own reducing incomes or benefits to struggle and then that's the target to attend. I was just wondering, how do we know in terms of giving millions pounds off that, how much of that will be able to get out in total? How is it calculated? Have they given sort of given an assessment on that and given us a way to distribute it all and how are we going to get that all out and make sure that everyone needs to sort of take it together and something to put the advertise that?
That's kind of fun. The official grants are one of the best in the country and they have to manage with this service and also there are specific numbers for you right now and I can get back to you with them. I think they've done the council in general has done an enormous effort of making sure that we are reaching those people and getting those support grants to them.
Any further questions or comments, Councillor Collins? Thank you. Agenda item 9 is considered findings of the independent inquiry of the executive from the Magna Community Academy. This report
I move the report, Madam Mayor.
This report seconded. Are there any questions in relation to the report? Any comments? Questions or comments? Is it a question or comment? Any comments?
Good afternoon. The Wakefield South councillors, we welcome the report of Wakefield Way Too Late. Could I ask a few questions? First of all, will there be an apology letter sent to the school and parents? Number 2, will there be a thank you to the staff for the disturbances caused in moving materials in the classrooms? Number 3, the estimation of costs of this, including all legal fees. And finally, we plan to be probably wrong to reduce some time and money. Why does it take so long? And wouldn't we only need to count? Let's look at this count. Sometimes I feel that we're very quick to have a government and it's funded. We're very a lot quick to spend the money and waste it. I just hope in the future
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we do apologise for the disruption. This is historic. It goes back many years. I find it strange coming from a ward councillor where no concerns were raised about the situation at the school in all the years from 2010 until that point in March 2021 when the cabinet report was put forward to handle out that there were substantial repairs needed to be done, and that is why the report went forward. As a children's service, we needed to get that job done, and that is why this cabinet report went forward. And the leader has taken on board the concerns raised by your leader about what went on, and that is why she commissioned this independent report. But I'm sorry, I'm not taking any lessons from you about not raising concerns or being careful about what's going on in your ward when nobody at any point has raised concerns about the disruptions caused. I wasn't in charge actually. I haven't been in charge of this service until 2018. So after 2018.
Councillor Johnson, as you wish to be speaking, you have your turn to speak. Let her reply.
I took over this job in 2018, and I can say that my officers acted quickly as soon as we were aware of the problems. Hence, the paperwork to cabinet asking for the funding to make sure that that school can be repaired, the roof can be done, and with the children and staff in that school can continue with the education that they deserve.
Thank you, Councillor Schmidt. Councillor Sands, maybe you've got a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, my question is, I was not aware of this as a member of the audit committee, and I do feel that something serious that should be brought to the audit committee. And I'm wondering if there are things in place to ensure that this is highlighted. Any major project over a certain amount should be reported on quite frequently. If I missed it, then I do apologise, and I do appreciate the report, and I do appreciate the fact that you have looked at this very transparently and been very open and honest with this. So I do appreciate it. But when it came to a large contract such as the Aspire in Park contract, I ensured that we had regular updates at audit, and I would not let them take it off the average register. Now, from a construction background myself, I've been in construction for a number of years, and the mistakes that were made were so basic
monitor all capital projects. Part of that monitoring is identifying risk. The Sandal Mine project is a classic case, previously identified in lessons to be learned from other councils. I'm thinking of Nottingham, the city of Nottingham. The risk that has been realised, become a reality, is institutional blindness to escalating costs. This is easily achieved when it is considered that the case is a law cause. And in this case, an exemplar building with zero carbon credentials, when all that was required was a functional school building. The report states that at best, the council's response was reasonable, but never timely to solve the problems. One person in a senior position had an overwhelming preference to appoint SWA architects. Does anybody know anything about Sarah Williams? Sarah Williams was a professor at a university. First came to prominence by building a house made out of bales of straw in Islington. And she featured on grand design on the television and became a celebrity architect. Now, I'm concerned about the effect that the appointment of this company acts on the other external partners. It seems to go falling out right from the beginning. And that's a little bit of investigation into Sarah Williams under the system Wakefield. I've searched through the report, and I think that the original cost of 4 million is now standing at something like in excess of 10 million. And I'm just wondering if you add the loss that the children suffered and the cost of alternative accommodation, what the final figure will be, and are you able to tell us that?
I'm sorry, this is historic. All this happened in the past. The people who were behind this, who were involved in this, don't even work here or represent us anymore. I can't respond to that because it is in the past. My concern as portfolio for children and young people is that this school got its due nothing. And there was cost involved. The cost was again because of the mistakes of the past, not the mistakes of now. We are righting those mistakes. Sarah Wigglesworth, I don't know. I wasn't here, I can't remember then, I wasn't involved. So yes, I take on board your comments, but that's exactly historically happened. But I can assure you it won't happen again. That was my opinion.
Councillor Harvey. No, you've got no chances, Councillor Harvey, too.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And with that little joy that I have to ask a few questions to Councillor Bishop. I felt that you are actually defending the defendable. At the moment, you have mentioned the historical so many times. But let's be clear, the council investigation, yes, the independent investigation into this central matter uncovered a number of failures, okay, mistakes made by all parties, but the blame has been firmly laid into this council, nowhere else. Okay? So let's face it, this school was a maintained LA school at the time of this project. So with the intention, the council wants to have the best of architecture, beautiful school building to study, to learn, but things have unraveled with some problems very soon, but the council chose to actually kind of line towards it. So we're talking about 2014, the defects has been solved already. The roof issue has been there for a long time. But every step away, the council turned the blind eye, did not have the proper measure to rectify the situation until literally the children had left without a roof above their head. with the staff struggling for years to come. So the investigation was a result of calls from the Conservative group led by Councillor Nadeem Ahmed. It's a shame that he is not here today, but otherwise we have so many questions to ask this council. What have you done to fail the children so massively in that school? So I just want to know that what lessons the council have learned. I just want you to please put your hands up and say the independent inquiries have already said for certain this council has missed so many milestones to actually get the issue sorted out. And Councillor Eastwood, can you please tell us what lessons we have learned and what is the plan we have in the future to avoid, to prevent this from happening again? But to me, it's not very clear. We are not pursuing army officers, we are pursuing this council, the elected members, at the time that people have to make the decision and they did not follow this rule. And also, they have wasted taxpayers' money, millions and millions of pounds, and affect other investment projects for our schools. So thank you. Please do tell us what lessons we have learned and what has gone wrong with this project.
I think it's quite clear from the report what has gone wrong with this programme, and I think it's quite clear from the supplementary document regarding the independent inquiry action plan what this council intends to do. We know there's a lot of money involved, and we are pursuing getting the money back from, taking action against the people that we feel have failed in this. Well, I just don't know what you want in here, because really, we weren't there. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. We have rectified the mistake. We're making sure that those children have a decent school to go back to in September. I just don't know what you think we can do now other than what we've already done. I mean, the leader asked for an independent inquiry so we could learn from the mistakes of the past. We are learning from the mistakes of the past. We've been totally transparent, although your leaders didn't think we are being totally transparent. But we are being totally transparent. So I'm afraid you keep asking me this question and I'll keep you on the same answer.
Councillor
Thank you for those comments. I've got a comment rather than close to a question. It's not based on the issue, it's just a comment in general in regards to the report. I do thank the reader for getting an independent report from a well-known independent solicitors firm. Of course, as a resident, it's pretty dumb at best to learn that so much money is being wasted when it could have been put to much better use. And unfortunately, my reading of the report is, well, there's nobody left to account apart from the builders, those who are responsible for it. I don't want to think of the past, so I can only hope we will learn from the mistakes of the past. And I will encourage, and I'm sure every single council in this room has the same thought process of ensuring that the public's money is spent properly. As a taxpayer, I'd like to see that every single penny is properly used and it's not wasted in this manner again in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, just to agree with those comments. I mean, we all of us are responsible for the way we raise money. It isn't our money. It is theirs and we should safeguard it. I think this report was timely, it's brought up how many mistakes were made at that time, and we have taken it all on board, and I'm sure that it will confirm everything that we do to make sure nothing like this happens again.
This is the last question. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The lesson of history, we've never learned the lessons of history of the council. I'm afraid it's only saying it won't happen on the map, because by the time we find out, the other moved on, the next person will go, oh, she's not here anymore. It doesn't work like that. You have to put your hand on it. Labour have controlled this council since 1974. It's not going to turn it around and say, well, he's not here, he's gone. I mean, basically what you're saying is, as long as we can operate on the mushroom principle and keep it going, then we're all in the clear, because we've moved on. It doesn't work like that.
Councillor Short.
I'm afraid we put down, and we've said yes, there were mistakes made. We put down and we've said yes, we'll look at those mistakes that have been made. And yes, we will address them. And we'll make sure those mistakes won't happen again. And yes, I wasn't there at that time. No, I know I wasn't. No. But we have learned from those mistakes. The whole idea of the inquiry was to learn from the mistakes. And that is what we've done. What more can you possibly do than learn from those mistakes and make sure you don't do them again? Yes.
Councillor Short, I feel this matter has been debated enough. I will send this vote to the vote. All those in favour of the report, please show your hands. Any against? Any abstentions? That is correct. Agenda item 10 is to consider the report of the independent remuneration plan, which will normally be referred to as the IRP, on members' allowances. Is the report moved by Councillor Collins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll just note that the Council has to consider whether to accept the recommendations of the panel. I propose that we do that with the exception of the recommendations for the Chair of Standards and the Chair of the Deputy Chair of Licensing. This Council agreed in December changes to having an actual to the Standards Committee, and the new committee is now decision-making and not advisory. We also know that the government may well bring forward legislation on standards that will further enhance the role in response to the 2019 report. The Committee on Standards in Public Life. I'm sure we all agree here that high standards of conduct and ethics are very important for public trust and confidence in local politics. The roles of Chair and Chair of Licensing have also changed. We've taken on further responsibilities with the opposition, the subcommittee chairs. So it's with these changes in mind that we propose retention of current officers in those roles who have refused to do a further evaluation of the workload that these changes in mind.
Is the report seconded? Councillor Mitchell. Are there any questions in relation to the report? Any comments? All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Councillor Swift. That is carried. Agenda item 11 is to deal with any questions made by members. Councillor Rowley is given the required notice to ask questions to the portfolio holder for communities, property and health. Full details of which are set out in the council agenda. Councillor Cummings, would you please reply to the question?
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Also, would you address the question first?
As you can see from the book, the government has now confirmed that they're not extending the £20 universal credit beyond September. Cabinet Member for Poverty, please confirm how many local residents living in the Wakefield district will be affected by this policy and the impact this can have on local families.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine, for asking this question, because once again it gives us the opportunity to highlight that across the country 6 million people rely on universal credit to get by, 40% of whom are in work. Putting the 20,000-week pandemic top-up at the end of September risks pushing even more people into deeper debt and poverty, just as furlough is also due to end. A survey by retail trade union Usdaw found that 57% of workers on universal credit are struggling to pay their gas and electric bills. 80% said they would be worried or very worried if the uplift was removed. Trussell Trust found that 72% of those that it surveyed reported that the £20 uplift had made buying essentials items easier. The increase in benefit has had a positive effect on the lives of thousands of local claimants who are better able to pay for life's essentials, such as food, clothing and utilities. Charities have warned that if it's cut, 1 million more will be forced into food bank use, and that the decision risks forcing 500,000 people into poverty, and putting more than 200,000 more children below the poverty line, with a further 500,000 of those already in poverty finding themselves in even worse hardship. Over 26,000 residents and households across our district pay universal credit, and that has doubled since the pandemic started. Just £94 a week to live on for a single person, and this, as we know, is causing mental health problems, hunger, and more use of our food banks. The £20 a week increase in universal credit made at the beginning of the pandemic, but which is due to end in September, has been a lifeline for struggling families. The council is doing all it can to support struggling families across our district. The Recovery Board's short-term focus has been on helping struggling families, helping those organisations to continue supporting those struggling families. And we as councillors have committed to help those children who suffer digital poverty by committing capital grant funding to purchase tablets and laptops for those children who suffer with their education. As part of this work, the Council's Velvet Hub service was created to provide residents with dedicated assistance in the heart of their communities, such as support to check for claims benefits. Many councillors from across this chamber they're out there on the front line volunteering in food banks, running food banks, preparing and delivering grab bags for children during school holidays, and these are things that our residents rely upon. We do get it, and we know more and more people need our help, and that's why I supported a resolution in December of last year calling on the government to make the £20 increase to the standard amounts in universal credit permanent. With unemployment to set a hit of 1980s levels, we need the government to keep this £20 a week lifeline and to extend it to all legacy payments.
Councillor Rowley is asking the question, come back to the supplementary.
Yes, can I ask that the cabinet member agree that the letter should be sent to government on behalf of this council, expressing our concern that this decision will push even more local families in our district into poverty and hardship?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm not sure what the resolution that we have here, people can tell us this whether we can do that once again. I think we did it in December. But certainly if we can't do it through the council's legal department, then certainly we as a Labour will be writing to the government expressing our concern that this essential benefit is due to be withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Just before we go to agenda item 12, Councillor Gordon, you wish to speak on item 7, although I felt it when the was enough. But he has asked that his remaining minutes that he wishes to speak. Just to make you all aware. We are moving on to agenda item 12. This is the final agenda item, which is to consider motions proposed by members. 3 motions were originally received, and the last motion from Councillor Ahmed is now being withdrawn. The first motion is from Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gordon, would you like to make your motion to Council?
That said, there are some issues with the ability to park in certain areas, streets which are built obviously well before cars were invented, making sure that we look at ways in which we as a local authority make the most of any kind of 100% governance to make sure that we can enforce making sure that the highways and footpaths are clear for people to be able to go around. We know as a local authority that we want to encourage people to use active transport, walk and other methods. Vehicles and cars, parking and pavements often are a barrier to that. This motion would seek to encourage members to be involved and highlight areas where there is a problem. The Speaker of Council offices have a report from that which would identify those areas. This is an amendment which has been put forward. At this point, I'm more happy to accept that as friendly if that's something we can do. I think in some ways it does add to it, and I think actually putting it out to the public is something that will give a greater breadth and a greater air of transparency to it. I do find it slightly ironic, however, that the reason for Mr. out to the public is to encourage debate and ask residents to be involved. It was only 2 years ago when I said we should encourage members to attend meetings and ask questions themselves, and that was slapped down as unnecessary. So council just seems to have a little bit of inconsistency in when it was involved with the at all. But proposing the motion, and like I said, happy to accept the amendment friendly.
Madam Mayor, since you have any indication that the proposal of the motion accepts the amendment, what I would suggest that we do is that we just formally have the motion seconded, and then we move to the proposal of the amendment, and treat that as a substantive motion, and allow the movement to have 5 minutes on it as a substantive motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hayes is seconding the motion. Do you wish to second the motion?
Yeah, we second the motion and behind this support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. During the just motion, is going to move directly to Councillor Morgan's amended motion, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So the amendment's been accepted, that will be treated as a substantive motion now, Councillor Morgan. So you are speaking to it as a substantive amended motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I thank Councillor Morgan and others of the group for raising the issue. It is relevant, it is something that we do in all our laws. But saying that, Madam Mayor, parking related issues are the top 3 complaints we receive from local residents year in year out. But Madam Mayor, there is a difference between parking on pavement and obstructing pavement. It is well known that 32 London boroughs in the City of London are now banning parking on pavements under the Greater London General Purpose Act 1974. In the same reply to Wakefield District, we literally see thousands of homeowners lose their parking spaces. As we know very well before, there is more cars than there is room on the road in some areas. That's ourselves in London for other, we didn't know that. And we also do not have an integrated public transport system to match London, so there's very few alternatives for thousands of people across the district not to use the car. And also the individual parking payment, we'll see this district come to standstill, and we'll see a massive effect on emergency services. One size definitely doesn't fit all. Looking to a countrywide ban on parking on pavement is nothing new, Madam Mayor. Back in 2015, a private members bill went through the House of Parliament but failed at second reading as concern was raised by the members of Parliament as a critical difficulty in parking on narrow streets. Madam Mayor, I believe Council need to wait out of the consultation, see what powers the London grant to local authorities, and then we'll start dealing about the deal obstructions. Not everywhere. Let's start talking to members of the public, start talking to members of council, see where we'd like to see bans, whether we outside doctors' surgeries, outside schools, community centres. Start going from there and draw a policy up, we can all get behind, all support, but let's listen to what residents have to say on this, Madam Mayor. With that, Madam Mayor, I move the motion. I call the motion now, yes.
Does any members wish to speak on the substantive motion? Councillor Gordon.
It was less of a speaking more actually Councillor Morley. In terms of obviously we have that policy framework, is that something that you're happy to include into the part of it and make sure that we all work on that policy framework?
He's asking if you have to do that as part.
people never thought people would have a car, we buying 2 cars. But I've got on the street in Oslo where we tried to resolve the problem of Council Farm and Council Taylor. And as all we get is bickering between Wakefield District Housing and Wakefield Council as to whose responsibility is and who owns which bit. And I'm trying to resolve that. It's something that could resolve. Councillor Gordon's proposals are very good one, and it's a very important issue. But I don't know how we're going to go forward with it, but this whole area where it's just not going to work. And I can see this ending up with tickets for things that they can't really afford. That's my concern.
Any other councillors wish to speak on the motion? Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further along from that, there are some issues that could be raised on this, where you've got people, such as yourself, who working with the private properties, or working with people's houses, and you've got excess time. I'm just a bit, my concern is that once we start wanting to enforce not parking on the street, even walking payment, but it's just blocking the road, congestion as it is, and people visiting houses, more and more deliveries being made by white man, etc., etc. We've got a situation where people might take this into their own hands and start damaging cars that are parked or parked on the pavement. So this needs a lot of consideration and a lot of consultation, not just with local residents who might want to have a longer issue, and raise a local issue. Got to be viewed around.
When this consultation is carried out, I will support the move. However, I would request that special priority is given to Eastmore. The residents of Eastmore park on grass verges. They don't have suitable parking because they've been ignored by this council in the past. They've been ignored by the local councillors and they have absolutely nowhere to park, so they park on grass verges ruining them. I don't blame them, something needs to be done. So I would welcome the consultation and I would request special priorities given to this more. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is a massive problem in our district. There's some swathes of our district that you've got no choice but to park a little bit on there because buses, cars, delivery vans, etc. You just can't get through otherwise. I was wondering if we could go about this problem, maybe giving some help to residents to provide them with drop curbs so they can get the cars in the driveway because it's a very expensive thing to do. And I think things like that would help to start looking forward to how we could help residents get the cars into the road. Thank you.
Councillor Ecclestone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just heard that residents on Eastmore are being ignored regarding the grass verges of the properties. Well, I welcome anyone in this community today to go look in my account on Street Scene and see how many entrances I've got in that account with regards to parking on Eastmore, on grass verges and anywhere else. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Scott.
Thank you. I live in this multiple space. I live in the streets and I can't partway on the path that's all over my street. Because we have to do. We've had thousands of pounds put down to our cars. My daughter alone had £3,000 of money to her car in less than 6 months. And nobody stops. We have to park slightly over the curb. And I can go and sit in the middle of it as well, because my husband has no peripheral vision whatsoever and will bump into cars. But we have to look at each street individually. We live in a street where there's a school and people come up that street every day, twice a day. Hundreds of them, and we don't acknowledge other vehicles. We can have problems numerous times, and we have to have because my husband
it's just, this problem has been brewing for a number of years now. And the way planning has been passed for large houses without affordable housing, without appropriate parking, we've got a situation on Leeds Road at the moment with a new Hill development. There's nowhere for people to park. They have to park on pavement. Otherwise, there are certain roads in my ward, certain roads in your ward. Emergency vehicles will be able to get through without parking on the pavement. Yeah, I am speaking. Pardon? Yeah, okay, all right, sit down, I'm talking. And with the right picture, I understand. Come on. Somebody had to. Sorry. I did enjoy that one. Yeah, and with the rise of HMOs as well, you have possibly four cars in a terraced house. Where do they park? You know, if we introduce this, we need to provide people, as Councillor Crew said, we need to provide people with an alternative, and that is going to cost an absolute fortune. So we need to look at a more holistic approach to planning, granting planning applications. You know, we need to make sure that anything that goes forward from now on has appropriate parking.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please forgive me getting up. These seats are not meant for meetings, especially the replacement of any believe me. This is an issue that is across the whole of the district. So there's no such thing as anybody saying company is a priority. It's across the district. Residential accommodation, terraced houses, estates, new and old. And as a mention has already been made about planning, the planning laws, when they're looking at development, as I recollect, they've changed. There's actually saying, well, you can accommodate 1.5 cars. You have to find the half car in the planning commission. And these are laid down by the government in terms of development opportunities. And the development opportunities now changed the legislation in Mandy's many years ago, because it used to be presumption against development. And the present government changed to presumption for development. So that was to accommodate housing needs as well. But affordable housing seems to be something that they can talk about forever. If I want to talk about the issues that are facing the council with the issues of parking across the district. Some people are luckier than others, but that's very rare these days, with the amount of cars per family. And it is rare to find a place where nobody is affected or not affected by the traffic flows in their areas. I can see that there are to be priorities that need to be consulted on, and I think one of the biggest areas of concern to everybody is what's happening outside our schools. I'm absolutely amazed at the way that the traffic is dealt with outside our schools and the parking problems, that we haven't had more incidents. I am. What I want to really say about the parking on the pavements issue is this, and on the grass verges. We all want to keep our green bits actually from being turned into mud baths. And unfortunately, that's happening all over the place. All over main roads, residential areas, estates, it's happening all over the place. The other part of the conversation in terms of the consultation is our estates were never built for the amount of traffic that's on them. And at the same time, our communities out there want the ability to have a bus service, as little as it is, to help them get from their area to work. And that's another instance of traffic out in our area that's got to be looked at in terms of usage, need, the economy, and work related for work planning. But I think there's one thing that needs to be put out there to the public, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, because I think we need to get this message out, that when parking has to be done on the pavement, because as Catherine says there are many other opportunities, am I right in thinking that the rule applies that when somebody parks on the pavement, they've actually got to give room for a wheelchair or a pushchair with a child, with an adult, to be available to be able to park, to be able to pass that car Because I have seen several incidents across my ward, across the city, and I'm sure I'm not alone, which actually says to me that the car, the way it's parked, they actually think it's a parking area and is forcing families with pushchairs going to school and coming home and wheelchairs out onto the road. Now, I think that's something that we start with an understanding there to help our public understand that there's got to be enough access on the footpath. It will help get people safely on their journey of pedestrianisation to where they need to go. So we really sincerely ask Matthew, A, can we put this, my view of the rule is, to some consideration. If it's right, can it be endorsed and made public? And if it's wrong, can we look to be put into some rule for safety reasons?
Thank you, Councillor Rose. I think there's one across the room that we all have to report forward. So I would ask Councillor Marlon if they look at this controversial, who will show up beside our
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, we started late on the parking payments, we've got some grass verges, we've got social street parking, we've just everything. Is parking a relative subject for everybody across the district, across the country, quite truthful. The points have been raised today. What I would say is we will be able to see what powers the will give us. From that, we will then go down and we'll create a policy of where we'd like to see, whether it be outside schools, hospitals, youth centres, in estates, where it's fits, where the purpose will put, who's able to make sure they're not park pavements or obstructing pavements. That is the main thing. Yes, you can park on pavement, the police will take a pragmatic view on it, as long as they're not obstructing it, and a buggy or something wheelchair can get down that pavement, then not 9 times out of 10 will not enforce. It is the police's responsibility to enforce on that one. Council stands being everything I've said, on what's said in the speech. It will take pragmatic view on it. We do understand that there's lots of streets around the district where people didn't park on pavement, the road comes to a standstill. So with that, I wait, as I said before, wait the outcome of the powers of the government to the consultation, understand we will develop policy and we will consult with local members, cross-party and residents. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour of these motions, please show your hands. Any abstentions? That is carried. The second motion is before Councillor Collins. Would you please move your motion to council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This legislation is an attack on democracy. It is an attack on the rights of every voter in Wakefield to participate in a free and fair election, unhindered by the state. Requiring voter ID is a solution to a problem that simply does not exist. Now, I don't know about you, but I rarely hear people telling me that too many people are taking part in democracy. Quite well. This legislation is not demanded by the Electoral Commission. It is not based on reason, data or fact. But what we do know is that the poorest are least likely to have voter ID. Those already marginalised by society are less likely to pay voter identification. And let's just be clear, the government aren't offering to pay voter ID in order to enable citizens to vote. No. They're saying councils should issue voter ID documents. Now, in the backdrop of years and years of government cuts, the money will have to come from somewhere. The government are essentially telling citizens of Wakefield and beyond that they will have to pay to vote. This is a blatant and breathtaking attempt to rig the system in favour of those who have already had the most at the expense of those who have the least. If you are disabled, unemployed, and no qualifications, then you are less likely to have current recognisable ID. Now, the principle here is an important one. We prize democracy. We prize the rights of our people to choose the destiny of our nations through the principle of one person, one vote, and who gets the vote is able to govern. Putting barriers in the road where there is no evidence they are needed makes no sense for anyone who wants to increase participation in our democracy. And I hope members will consider
who's interested in if fewer people vote, if fewer people are represented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Is the motion seconded? Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Do you wish to formally speak now or reserve your vote to speak later in the debate? Okay.
I am pleased to second this motion. It is very prompt of Councillor Collins to bring this to our attention. It is something that cannot be delayed. There is no evidence of any significant intellectual fraud in Great Britain warranting any action. The decision to require Alto ID is out of proportion to the problem and will disenfranchise many legitimate voters in particular, those on low incomes. It will be a huge waste of taxpayers' money. By the way, in the UK, only Northern Ireland requires a photo ID, and not everyone can access as a photo ID. You have to apply for an ID card to do that. Yes, for the form. This is the form here. You'll see our local council at that source, and we will have to vouch that that person is who they say they are. If they do not have photo ID such as a passport. By the way, in Canada, all the parties decided to have voter ID, but they decided against photo IDs as being too expensive. I'm disenfranchising many. Their requirement is that if the resident doesn't have a driving license, all they need is 2 forms of identification, which there's 2 forms which give their name and 1 with their address. And if that's not possible, they are willing to accept just simply that somebody who is eligible to vote can just vouch for another voter simply by signing the form that the voter is who they say they are. They do recognise the costliness of having a photo ID. Unfortunately, our government does not recognise that. By the way, some European countries require the production of an ID card to vote. If you can remember, I do remember, a few years ago, we were clearly against ID cards, and it was suggested by the government. We just suggested that. So they were never introduced. The idea was to go about that. Now we realised having to show an ID card was considered to be un-British, not in keeping with our way of life. And there was also a suspicion that an ID card could also be used for requiring access to other services, such as medical appointments. Introducing voter ID could be a backward way of introducing ID cards, which was so significantly rejected by the electorate. And we proud ourselves that on the 15th of August 1872, the first secret ballot in the country was in our district in Pontefract. And people should have the confidence that they can have those involved with a secret ballot and not having to show a photo ID in order to vote. Let's keep the spirit of that first election alive. Let's keep it alive by supporting this motion. By the way, I support this motion, as well as the legalist attempt to be reported by NECAS and so on the world and rejected by the British public. The government's plan is out of proportion to the problem, will be costly to implement, and will disenfranchise many voters. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Sanders has submitted an amendment to the motion. The amendment has been circulated to members prior to the meeting. Councillor Sanders, would you please introduce your amendment?
Madam Mayor,
like mine, where our Conservative representative has said that we're taking it for granted, and can I just say, I have never taken the electorate for granted. The situation there is that we've got an awful lot of people where English is a second language, who don't have driving licences or passports, but in many cases not registered to vote already. What we need to do is increase that number, and so to actually put disincentives in the way cannot be the right way forward. What we need to do is to ensure that more people participate in the electoral system, and to stop them doing so by putting obstacles in the way. It's not the way forward. And therefore I support this resolution and hope that the Conservative group will as well, because basically it's against democracy. And we've seen what's happening in America, where every obstacle in some of the southern states has been put to ensure that people can't vote. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I do wish to speak against the amendment, because in all the years I've been coming to this council, you've never had a speech from second amendment spoken total objection to what is written on the paper, text from the leader. But let's just say there's one significant day on the proposal, and it says on Monday, July the 5th. And on Monday, July the 5th, two significant things happen in this world. One was my wife's birthday, and more importantly, it was the day when existential fears of COVID and hospitalisation were starting to rise. And all this is a smoke screen that comes from this government, who are ministers of flags and statues, and who do and talk about nothing except the chaos created within this country. And these voter ID should really be item of debate, an issue of voter ID. The voter ID situation is primarily to attack Asian and BAME members. That's what it's all about, and it's to attack these people because they've referred to the old Tower Hamlet situation from quite a significant number of years ago. But it's about a small screen. It's about so people want to talk about anything other than what this murderous government have done to this country. 150,000 people dead, hospitalisations going through the roof, still continuing to deny a public inquiry to the people of this country, and we want to cover it up by putting this out on the Ministry of Flags about voter ID. It's a big fraud, and I would ask this council to support the resolution in the name of my colleague, Councillor Michelle Cousins.
Councillor Collins, want to speak on the amendment?
It's not fair that anybody should follow whoever is government. I'd like them to retract that.
Councillor, sit down. Councillor Collins, you're speaking on the amendment. Let us speak.
Councillor Mayor, I think the opposition amendment ranges a bit of time out, to be honest, because you don't seem to understand the council procedures. The working group, Councillor Sanders and myself, will consider legislative changes. What this meeting does is makes it political. It takes political stance from this council and sends a message to the government. In essence, whereas the Wakefield amendment to pass, it would still utterly condemn your own government policy, while insisting that we might leave for declaring your own government policy. It makes absolutely no sense. I might suggest, instead of writing to me, and consider myself a thought, very sorry, why do you write to your own government and address this attack on democracy that your government are coming from me? I've heard you.
Councillor Graham, do you wish to speak on the amendments?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. A couple of things I'm going to say about what you said. It's just to totally reject the amendment. I think Councillor Harvey is listing all of the people who have ID already. Young people going to vote. I think she said it doesn't matter. You've got, if the own government figures, 2.1 million people who aren't going to be able to vote. speak on this. All the people you want to have ID, some people don't. And I don't want to have some councillors sit round and discuss this. It's not up for debate in my eyes. This is stopping people from voting. So I'm totally reject the amendment and I will be supporting the original resolution from Councillor Collins.
Councillor Allen, absolutely, thank you so much for your presentation. There was no need for it. I'm out of touch with my community. I am. I'm responding. She will never stop, so I will respond. Now, just talking about this amendment and voters' rights and voters' IDs. If you were in touch with the community, you know that people that are on benefits, they have to have bank accounts to do both of them things. They have to present some form of ID or another. That is simply how it's done. Everybody has access to some form of identification, and let's face it, it stops voter fraud. What stops my friend to go vote on my behalf? How can you guarantee that every single person that will be coming in and voting legitimately is not done? It can't be policed, it's impossible to police without voter ID. But thank you for your comments, Ms. Rowley. But I'm not out of touch with my community. I'm fully aware of absolutely everything that's happening there. Hence why we say no to sleeping councillors.
Can I just remind councillors that we're talking about the amendment? I'm speaking, Councillor Akbar, please sit down. Councillor Emily, have you got something you wish to say on the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I oppose this amendment, obviously, that I think it's quite ironic when it's coming from the Conservative Party and their own Prime Minister, when he was a journalist, the Voice of Russell Days, wrote an article saying that he would cut up an ID card and eat it if the State of Europe and asked him to present it. This is just a completely blatant political measure that will disenfranchise some of the poorest in society. In fact, there's evidence of that. In 2018, the government ran a pilot scheme for this in Bromley, and 154 voters were turned away from polling stations because they couldn't present photo ID. That's more voters than some of our majorities in this chamber. So think very carefully about what you're saying when you're supporting mandatory ID. You're literally destroying the fabric of our democracy. So absolutely oppose this nonsensical amendment and support the original motion.
Councillor Baldwin.
I'd just like to thank Councillor Collins first of all for setting up the working group and the really good influence by having a clear opinion. What I would say is that something for that it was quite useful, it was quite informative, and to be fair, this amendment seems to strengthen and make it sound like a waste of time, but I don't think that's the case at all. Clearly it's good to do legislation, and whilst I'd love to, as a motion states, all or Wakefield Labour Group for many things, this is not one of them. What is clear is that this is a motion that has been proposed, but it doesn't want to point out all the sensitive. That doesn't make sense attacking the council or a working group when actually the people who are proposing this vote on it is the Tory government. So all that makes is I'll be voting against this amendment. I don't think it was necessary. I think it's very cheap things, and I think it's just bringing the work that officers and councillors have done trying to address the situation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't appreciate the government being called murderers, and I'd like to say that out loud. Thank you very much. I thought it was a disgusting comment. Also, I'd also like to say regarding voter fraud, when we have got students putting on social media that they've just voted at uni and they're going to go home and do it again, we've got to do something about it. So voter fraud, it does go on. It's not about identity, having an identity and singling that person out. It's stopping somebody voting twice and that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Sanders has moved with the amendment. Do we shall right to reply before we take the amendment to the vote. In exercising our right to reply, we are reminded that no new matter can be introduced.
Madam Mayor, I think it's all been said above and beyond. And yeah, it is political, and it's been started by the people opposite.
What is a little bit grating is talking about transparency and democracy. And again, this is something that I fundamentally, as a Liberal Democrat, one of the core reasons I am a Democrat is I believe in civil liberties. And sort of clamping down on elections and who can participate in democracy, to me, is absolutely appalling. It's why one of the first things I did when I came to this council was try to reduce the petition threshold, which I did with the support from the Labour group opposite. It's why I tried to install public question time to members of the public that go into this council chamber. What is clear, though, is that it comes to a little bit of a double standard now and again. I'm a little bit confused on the motion that we talk about having disenfranchised people, but then it mixes the issue of cost too. I do get a little bit worried about, given that it was the Labour government back in 2000 that looked at introducing ID cards, whether this is something that the Labour group only opposed because it's better than the ballot. That's the wrong reason to oppose it. I do hope that even there are other intentions, I'm sure we'll let them that was the case. But what is clear is that this government is intent on doing what it can to secure its majority for as long as possible. And gerrymandering a lot of people out of decision making is something that we should not enable, we should not stand for it, we should not stand by and let happen.
Thank you, Councillor.
I've run elections, as you know, all over the place, to be honest, but particularly in Wakefield. I don't believe impersonation at polling stations in Wakefield is an issue. It is in some areas. I don't think it is on here. The idea that the government is introduced this to cover up for the deaths in the COVID-19, I mean, what sort of planet are we living on, fellas? You know, it's just not true. It's complete nonsense. The government pledged to do this for some years, and it's something that needs to be done. Most countries in Europe, which Councillor Gordon's a big fan of, most countries in Europe have the same system. What's the problem? There isn't one. I don't know why the Lib Dems are complaining evidence. They tend to be the victims of voter fraud.
voting, to put it more generally, is that it's basically a non-solution to a largely non-existent problem. And the motion that we've got actually does make reference to two very, very real and two very big problems, i.e. a big number of voters who are not registered and a big number of voters who don't then turn out to vote. And those are major problems that undermine our democracy. The introduction of voter ID, selectively voter ID, can only actually alter the number of people voting in one direction, i.e. downwards. Now there's reference being made to the fact we mustn't play party politics, reference made to this is about party political agenda. What I see in terms of the government's moves is a relatively pale imitation of what the American Republicans are doing in a very, very much more blatant way, which is to look at the rules and the mechanics of elections and to actually look at what kind of changes will actually make the kind of people who are less likely to support you less able to vote, or in many instances unable to actually vote. Incidentally, I speak as someone who does actually support the Gordon Brown's proposal a few years ago for actual identity cards as a general thing. I might be in the minority on that. But the introduction of selective requirements for photo ID, specifically in the context of voting, can affect democracy in one direction only, and that's downwards. And incidentally, the example of a student voting both at their university and in their hometown, actually voter ID can make absolutely no difference to that. They can vote illegally in both situations now. They can vote illegally with voter ID under a different kind of arrangement. I support the motion. My next to correct you, the referring to the ministers responsible for 150,000 members that are not all of that. But if that's people across the side, it's the same thing. We spent time debating the amendment and the people and can't vote on amendment, but I have to work out how to work out. And I'll tell you what I'm on a planet here that sees day after day blatant attempts by the right wing, by this government, to cover up what's happened in this country by introducing rubbish, voter ID, flags, and statues. That's the reason why I think it. In my own knowledge, said to me, never trust a man that holds his head with a balloon and has to pull the revolution.
Obviously, the amendment fell. However, the only changes to my motion in the amendment were the ones that we've already told you after the fraud. So I look forward to support in moving forward, because, as we've said, there are too many people taking part in democracy, and we should be encouraging more people, not putting barriers in place in order to do that. And we need to send a clear message that the state cannot interfere in the rights of every voter in this district and country to participate in a free and fair election. Thank you.
All those against the original motion? All those abstaining?